Pence won't appeal ruling forcing testimony to January 6 grand jury, Aide says. Former Vice President Mike Pence will not appeal a federal judge's ruling, forcing him to testify in front of a grand jury investigating former President Donald J. Trump's efforts to thwart the transfer of power after the 2020 election, an aide said Wednesday. The decision by Mr. Pence could clear the way for potentially consequential testimony that federal prosecutors have long sought as they explore Mr. Trump's attempts to stay in office. It is unclear whether lawyers for Mr. Trump, who lost a parallel effort to limit Mr. Pence's testimony, will also appeal the judge's ruling. In a statement, Mr. Pence's advisor, Devin O'Malley, noted that Mr. Pence had prevailed on his attempts to argue that his testimony should be limited because as the president of the Senate on January 6, 2021, he was protected from legal scrutiny by the executive branch, including the Justice Department, under the Constitution's Speech or Debate Clause. That provision is intended to protect the separation of powers. The court's landmark and historic ruling affirmed for the first time in history that the Speech or Debate Clause extends to the Vice President of the United States, Mr. O'Malley said. Having vindicated that principle of the Constitution, Vice President Pence will not appeal the judge's ruling and will comply with the subpoena as required by law. Still, Judge James E. Boasberg, who heard the speech or debate arguments last month at a closed-door hearing in federal district court in Washington, said in his ruling that Mr. Pence would still have to testify about any potentially illegal acts committed by Mr. Trump on January 6 or on the days leading up to it. Should Mr. Pence end up testifying, it would mark a turning point in a months-long behind-the-scenes battle waged by Mr. Trump and several witnesses close to him to block the disclosure of details about plans to overturn the election. The former president's lawyers have often sought, and have repeatedly failed, to limit the testimony of important witnesses with assertions of executive privilege.